Hi everyone, welcome to Tallahassee Startup Week. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, welcome to Y'all can hear me, right? Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna do a quick introduction. I'm super thankful to have this next session. Loiz is actually joining us from California, and Kathleen Spahar is also has partnered with us to host this event. Thank you so much. I'm going to bring them onto the screen. I just wanted to let everyone know that we do have some attendees here from the Challenger Center watching the stream. I will soon disappear, which is what I intended, and I wanted to give some time for everyone to get situated, and then pretty soon Kathleen will introduce herself as well as Ben, and he will give a presentation on branding for nonprofits. Thanks again for joining us today. I'll see you soon at the end.
Hello.
Hi, Ben. How are you?
Good. How are you? Good to see you.
I'm good. It's great to see you again.
Yes. Happy to be here.
Fantastic. Good. Well, I think we're live and we're going, so I'm just going to go ahead and get started then. Welcome everybody, especially to our Challenger friends. That's great that you're here, and to anyone that is in the Tallahassee, Leon County, Capital City region, and anywhere from around the country or around the world, welcome to our session. And I'm just thrilled to be here. I'm Kathleen Spahar, the director of COCA, the Council on Culture and Arts. We are the local arts agency for Tallahassee, Leon County, and the surrounding 100-mile radius of northern Florida. So this is such a privilege to be with you today to introduce Ben Loiz and to have Ben give us some tips and of the trade, some words of wisdom, and share some stories about what he does and how he's been helping out nonprofits, especially with marketing and branding. Let me just give you a little bit of background on Ben, and then I'm going to turn it over to him. So Ben Loiz Studio partners with purposeful clients specializing in thoughtful and beautiful brand identities. Their services include consulting, company naming, logo design, identity development, brand guidelines, and implementation, all of which of the mentioned elements in print or on the web or in motion. So you've got quite a lot of expertise here, and we've got some time zones here too, because I'm East Coast here. You've got East and West represented here in this room. So thank you again, and I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to you, Ben. We appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Kathleen. And thanks for everyone for joining this time. I'm really happy to be here and looking forward to this talk. I hope even at some point you would be able to ask questions and maybe we can have a conversation as this continues. But like Kathleen mentioned, I'm going to be sharing today about branding for nonprofits. And so I don't know what thoughts you might have, and those who are in the audience, some may be running nonprofits, some may not. I don't know what thoughts you have about the connection between branding and nonprofits, or maybe if you feel there isn't a connection. So hopefully this talk will answer some of those questions and also walk through some particular challenges using case studies, using real life experiences or project experiences that probably a lot of nonprofits face. And so you'll see how branding can support nonprofits through many of these challenges. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a presentation, so part of it will be me talking, part of it will be you looking at graphics on the screen. I did provide that so you have some nice eye candy to look at and enjoy. But actually, I'd like to start first with a story. When I was a child, young child, my family was taking a family trip. And I remember there was a lot of driving and we were very hungry. I'm one of three brothers. I'm the youngest and I have two older brothers. And so at some point, we stopped at a diner, a roadside diner, to eat because everyone was hungry. It was not like a mom and pop diner. It was a chain diner, like a brand diner. And anyways, we went there. We had been there before, and now we're here again. But what happened this time was something my middle brother ate left him sick to his stomach and running for the bathroom, running for the restroom. And he had a terrible evening. This was a major, experience for us young kids. And anyways, what happened after that is that for years after that, anytime we'd see this diner, we were little kids, my parents would drive by or whatever, we'd all scream, "Ew, gross, gross." It was just so gross to us because of that experience with my brother getting sick off of the food. Well, you can see that even as little children, this particular experience left an impression that that really affected my choice of engaging with that brand or with that company for many years. In fact, I never ate at that chain diner until I was an adult. So anyways, why am I saying this? Well, you can imagine now in a different kind of level of experience. What if someone comes to a business, a nonprofit, and they have poor customer service on a phone call, or maybe they see poorly considered advertising, or they sense some biased inclinations in some of the things that are going on with that organization or that company? It affects people. So how does this relate? You came to this talk to hear about branding for nonprofits, and I'm talking about diners and running to the restroom. Well, it's because of this. What is a brand? A brand is an impression in the mind of a person formed by their experiences. So you may have thought, well, a brand is the Nike swoosh or the apple with the little bite taken out. Well, no, that's not a brand, that's a logo. You might have even thought a brand is a company like Levi's. I'm related to a nonprofit. I don't have to worry about that. But that's also, well, they are a brand, but having the thought that a brand is some big corporate entity and not what you are as a nonprofit is also the wrong way to think about this. In fact, if your thought is, I don't have to worry about this because I'm a nonprofit, then actually that's what your brand is. The impression people will get from it is that it's something you're not concerned with. It's something that a part of your organization, maybe that you don't take seriously or that you don't put effort into. So in fact, branding is always there. It's related to the experiences people have. If they have good experiences, your brand is positive in their mind. If they have bad experiences, your brand is negative in their mind. Well, you might say, well, it's just left up to them. There's nothing I can do. I don't need to work on this because it's just based on their experiences. But that's also not true, because there is something called branding with an ing, branding. Branding helps shape people's perception to align with your mission. And branding does include things like a logo. A logo is part of the process of branding. So is color. A consistent color palette is part of branding. Or the fonts that you use, or the patterns that you use on graphic materials, or the kind of photography that you use. It's even the way you write, your voice and tone, and sometimes it's even sound. You might hear some other companies or nonprofits, whenever they end their little ad or their graphic on social media, their logo pops up and there's a noise, there's a sound, there's a little bit of music. That's also branding. all of these things are working together so that when people are having experiences with your nonprofit, those experiences in their mind are beginning to be aligned with your mission. So, for example, why do you choose this particular font? Why do you choose these particular colors? Why do you choose this to be your symbol in your logo? Why do you choose this sound? Is it celebratory or is it serious? Is it very corporate? Whatever it is, all of these pieces are working together so that when people have experiences, even a phone call, they call you to talk about their donation, or they call you for whatever situation. These hopefully positive experiences that they're having are being backed up and supported by by your branding, by a visual identity that helps them into some of the items of your mission. So all of these items, when they're designed, should be designed with your values, your goals, and your mission as a nonprofit in mind. And so that's why a nonprofit or one company may have these colors and not that, because these colors represent their mission and their goals. So why is this important for nonprofits? This may be important for large companies, but what about nonprofits? Well, the goals, mission, and heart of a nonprofit can be hard to communicate and visualize. I don't know if you've had this experience. There are, in some nonprofits, there are many departments. Maybe one is a donor relations department. Maybe one is a marketing department. Maybe that, there's management, whatever. If you were to ask everyone, what is the heart of the organization? Would everyone communicate the same thing? In many cases, that doesn't happen. Everyone communicates something based on what they're working on every day, because everyone's working pretty hard. The donor relations people have their own goal in mind, and so they'll communicate about the nonprofit in a certain way that's different from maybe the marketing team or someone else. So it's helpful to have something that aligns everything together so everyone can communicate the same way. And not only are they communicating the same way, but the visuals, the graphic identity also aligns with what everyone is saying. Here you have consistency, and with consistency, you have trust. And we'll talk about this more in a moment. I want to share with you 3 challenges, and these 3 challenges, like I mentioned earlier, are case studies or actual project experiences with nonprofits that I think, at least one of them will probably relate to whatever nonprofit you are related to yourself. The first is for Carita Art Center. Now, Carita Art Center is a nonprofit in Los Angeles. During the 60s, 70s, there was an artist named Carita Kent. And the Carita Art Center promotes her art, teaching, and passion for social justice. This is an excellent organization. They do a lot of work with schools, with children, with young people, a lot of educational programs, of course, archives to promote her work. When I became engaged with them, we were working together on updating their visual identity. It was just tightening it up, making some changes, making things a little more consistent. But part of our process was a brand personality workshop. And what that is that I visited them, and we went through a number of activities. One of them was kind of pinning down what is your brand archetype, which means really what is the personality or the main focus of the personality of your organization. And after looking in many directions, we landed on this word creator. They are a creator of a number of different kinds of materials, different kinds of workshops for teachers, for students to learn and to create. And they also support creators. They support artists by inspiring them and by providing materials and tools for them to create. And so as we were having this discussion, they were sharing all of these wonderful tools they have and what they have available for universities and for researchers. One of the people who was part of the staff who was new, actually through that conversation became aware of how much rich resource they have as a center, which means that even someone who was there, because he had a particular role in his department, wasn't as versed in all that they offer. And so here, together, through this workshop, they became aligned with this matter of promoting more, that they are, their personality is that of a creator, creating tools, creating programs for people to be able to use and continue to create. And so here, this is a little actual testimonial. It says, Ben helped us create a resource, and this was a brand identity guideline, because after the workshop and after the visual identity was done, we created a brand guideline, which was a kind of like a 25-page PDF that listed out everything we had either developed or designed or that we had researched together, so that they could be aligned and that outward partners that they work with could be aligned. So the quote says, Ben helped us create a resource that not only saves us time when we work with external partners, but has helped to shape our identity and culture internally. So they were more aligned because of this branding workshop. And not only so, because everything was put into writing, put into a brand guidelines visually, now when they're working with external partners, whether those are printers or whether those are partners that they're coordinating with for events, now this guideline can be sent along and really explain who they are, both visually and also in their personality. So it says the workshop helped us better define our goals as an organization, etc. So here, one matter is internal alignment, getting everyone on the same page within your nonprofit. Okay, the second challenge is for this organization, Bibles for America. And this is actually a before picture. When I began to work with Bibles for America, whose mission is to distribute free Bibles and books throughout the US, their visual identity was kind of all over the place, all different fonts, all different colors, different design styles. And the reason was because as a nonprofit, they didn't have so much of a budget initially, and so they just hired on whoever they could. Some were designers, some were not designers, some were interns. Whoever could do something was doing it, which issued in everything looking different. Some of the pieces were nicer, some of the pieces were not as nice. Whatever it was, everything was different. And when I initially met with them, there was a page kind of like this, but it had a lot more of their materials on it. And I asked them, so what are your colors? And they began to kind of shout out colors, this color, that color. Well, the page I had a lot more blue on it. So one of them said blue. And so I said, well, which blue? Is it this dark blue or that dark blue? Is it this light blue or that light blue? And it just kept on going. And at the end, you realize we don't have colors. We don't have fonts that we use. We don't have, everything is kind of different. It's always shifting around. Again, like I mentioned earlier, this issues in a lack of trust. If a person you knew was different every time you saw them, you'd wonder if you really knew them. What a brand identity does, a visual identity, or the process of branding, is it creates a consistent visual language so that trust can be built. So this is an after we began to help them with their branding. We developed a brand guideline. This was a larger one because it's a larger organization with affiliates all over the world, affiliates in Europe, in Korea, in Australia. So we needed a guideline that both made the Bibles for America, which is the kind of mother brand, consistent and aligned, but something that then can also be communicated to all the other affiliates across the world. So this brand guideline kind of identified what is our logo, what are our colors, what are our secondary colors, what are our fonts, and in this case we even had to find Korean fonts that matched the English letter fonts because they have affiliates in various countries. We also defined their brand personality, the way they market and the way that they write and speak, so that their brand voice would be consistent. Many other things like web design, and so just so everything could be consistent. Again, these are some more images of the new branding. And you know what? Like I mentioned, branding results in consistency. Consistency results in trust. And trust results in people investing in that nonprofit. And so here we see that after the branding, the rebranding, they hit a number of records. So more free Bibles were given away. More books were given away. They saw an increase of blog subscribers, and animated videos had records. Now, this is not to say that the branding did everything. Of course, there's a marketing team here. There is a communications team here. There's a donation relations team here. Everyone is doing their job, but now everyone is doing their job with a consistent, both a visual and verbal identity, which is issuing in trust. And so now it's very clear who the organization is for those who support it. All right. Now, the last example is SCBWI, and that's the Society of Children's Book Writers and Illustrators. This organization is the largest membership organization for children's book creators. And what happened here was that it came under new leadership, which often happens at a nonprofit after a number of years. And with new leadership, there's new vision. There's new ideas. There's a freshness. There's an energy. And that energy needs to find a way to become visualized. It needs to find a way to make it from the mind of the new director or the new leadership to all the people that are members or that are have been supporting this organization. This one having been around for over 50 years. And so their previous logo was one that had a kite in it. And when I asked about the kite, there was no real reason why there was a kite as their logo, just because I think an old director from way back wanted a kite. So we wanted to message a few things. One, they wanted to emphasize diversity because they have membership all over the world, all different kinds of people and all different kinds of places. They also wanted to express something of their heritage. They have been around for a long time. And lastly, we're obviously going into a new digital age. And so they want to also reach the younger generation and be on digital platforms. So one thing we needed was a mark that was simple enough to be small enough to be an icon on an app or to be shown very well on social media. which you can see here on the right. Another thing we wanted to do is express those that they serve, which are creatives. And so you see the shape of this owl's beak is in that of a fountain pen nib, which both writers and illustrators use. Now, what about the owl? Of course, the owl represents something about wisdom and learning, but also owls are in every habitable continent on the earth. And so basically every continent has its own owl. And so this says something about diversity, how many continents they're on and all the various people that are members. So here the job was visualizing something new, something fresh that was in the heart, the mind of the new leadership. So here in their testimonial says, we had a clear vision of what we hope to convey with a new logo and brand identity, but no idea how that would manifest visually. When Ben presented us something surprising, fresh, and also perfect, we were beyond thrilled. Our manager of design and illustration was moved to tears. So excited to show our new logo to the world. So sometimes there's a need to manifest visually what's in the mind and the heart of the leadership. And for that, there needs to be this partnership where they can be supported to do that. So we saw 3 challenges. Here are 3 outcomes. 3 outcomes where branding can support nonprofits are related to internal alignment, helping everyone from the various departments, various things that they're doing to be aligned and on the same page. So everyone is speaking the same thing with the same vision as the leadership, and also being able to more clearly communicate to partners and people that are outside the organization. 2 is consistency. This is related to Bibles for America, where they were all over the place at one point. We helped them through this branding process to have a more consistent visual expression, which issues in trust. And we saw that there are results related to that trust. And then 3rd, manifesting visually. In this case, there was a new leadership, and this new leadership has a new heart, new vision. Of course, keeping with the heritage of the organization and all that is included there, but bringing the organization forward. And to manifest visually, you need branding to help to do that, to introduce this new vision to the world. All right. So hopefully those 3 case studies help visualize how branding can support a nonprofit organization. Again, on the one hand, a brand alone is really the ideas, the experiences in the mind of a person having engaged with a company or a nonprofit. But branding supports and helps the ones who are engaging in our brand's perception to align with our mission. We have a mission, we have goals, and all of these elements, again, whether it's sound, whether it's personality, writing, photography, logo, colors, identity, these all should say something about the heart of the mission, so that as people begin to have their experiences, there is this support, almost like all of their experiences go into a jar, and that jar represents all the values and the goals of the organization. Okay. All right. So that's it. I want to thank you for listening in. And here's some of my information if you'd like to contact at some point. But I really just want to thank you for your time. Hopefully this was helpful for you. And I'll let the others share what we'll do next. I think you're muted, Kathleen. There you go.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Got that one out of the way. It was a wonderful presentation, Ben, just really clear in regards to your process and the accomplishments that you were able to do with the 3 organizations. That's terrific. I'm looking at the comments box to see whether there are any questions from our audiences. But in the meantime, kind of looking at how you went about this with the organizations to get from the brand to consistency to trust to success, that's quite a journey to go on. And so when you're working with organizations, what did you do to convince people to agree on how this was going to happen and to get them to buy into what you were advising them to do?
Yeah, well, I think every organization is different. And oftentimes, organizations will contact knowing that there's a problem. They may not know the solution to the problem in regards to branding or visual identity or things like this, but they know there's something that's not right. For example, in the last one, I know I have a vision, I just don't know how to visualize it. In the middle one, well, we care about design enough that we have all these materials, but we know something is not, there's no consistency. So there's oftentimes different reasons that a company or organization will come, and it's through conversation. I mean, I'm very big on getting to know people and getting to know the organizations, getting to know the heart of the organizations. So there's a lot of conversations, there's a lot of questions, a lot of asking, and sometimes there's written questions and asking. Sometimes there's verbal, kind of like we're having now, either in person or on a chat. And through that, through these questions, these responses, opening up, things emerge. And once we can both see that this is where the problem lies, we can work on a way to solve it. But I would say that I forgot the way you worded this. How do you get them to?
It's about just getting everybody to a point of agreement.
Right.
These are organizations that are also, there's a lot of passion behind these missions. Right. And so sometimes that can, there's passion, and then there's, can really, that doesn't always lead to agreement. Mm-hmm. So that's that's completely helpful. Thank you so much. Yes. We have another question here from Marisa. So thank you so much. And that is, do you ever facilitate your brand strategy sessions with clients remotely? And if so, what are your preferred online tools?
Yes, I do that. And thank you for this question, Marisa. I do the sessions both in person, like you saw the pictures in the slideshow, and also online. I would say I would probably normally ask the organization what they internally use, and then just use whatever they're comfortable with. I use tools like Whereby, I use Zoom, different things. Sometimes things will happen via email. Sometimes things will happen via phone call. It really depends on what we're doing for that session. I normally begin every project either with an in-person meeting or with a phone call, just getting to know the organization. And I think, actually, going back to Kathleen, what you mentioned about passion, if I can be aligned with the organization, really understand the heart, and also get passionate about it, that's where the agreement comes. And I'm not interested in designing fancy graphics just because they're fancy. I want to understand the heart of the company and express that. So that's part of my job, is to really get into the heart and the mind of the organization or the leadership, so that I can really support their vision. And so part of that, these sessions, these strategy sessions, whether they're in person or online, are to do that. It's to really understand who they are, so we can be aligned in working together to find something that really represents them well. So I think I normally ask the client what they use and jump on that to make it easier or comfortable. But I have my various tools as well.
That's really fantastic, Ben. It also just reminds me of the kind of the four steps that you're talking about with the brand consistency and trust. And so in a sense that you're also modeling that in the way that you
Right.
are working with your clients on, and that's really fantastic. And that sometimes can be unusual, especially in the nonprofit sector, where it's a different kind of culture. And not only as we talked about these passion projects, but also there's a lot of grassroots work going on. There's a lot of volunteerism. It might be a combination of staff that you're working with or volunteers and paid. And so it's a different kind of animal when you're looking at trying to get these really high-end results done with the particular process. So that's really helpful to know that. If there's other questions, please go ahead and put them in the chat. Just real curious about some of the projects that you worked on that you talked about, Ben. Can you talk about those length of campaigns and if you've kind of stayed with those organizations and followed any of the work that they've done?
Yes. So your two questions are how long did they take? And the second one is, do I still kind of work with them? Yes. Yeah. I would say to some extent, all three of them, yes, I still work to support them. Some of them after building out, okay, maybe start with question one. For the Caritas Center, I've been working with them for a few years and we worked on certain projects. The particular project where we did the brand guidelines and there was the alignment, I would say that took 3 months or so together. And they have a team in an in-house team that does different things. Now that they have their guideline, they can use that to create materials that kind of look like the ones that I developed for their brand. So now they're developing their own materials, but I also partner with them from time to time. Bibles for America was a longer one. We had been working together for a number of years, and I helped them form an in-house design team that's now taking care of everything, and I consult and kind of advise the design team. So I meet with their lead designer a few times a week, but the initial realignment took a number of years because it's a large organization and there was just a number of things we were kind of working through. But I still have contact with them. And then SCBWI is a newer project. That was kind of a quick turnaround. Some projects are longer, some are shorter. So that was actually within a month, we worked together to kind of develop this new visual voice. And I think we look forward to working together in the future.
That's wonderful. Good. So, if you decide that you're going to reach out to Ben and ask him for some help, advice, ask him to lead a project for you, whatever else it is, then this is an ongoing relationship. So, you're going to start with one project and it's just going to continue from there. That's really tremendous. So I know we're starting to run out of time. I don't see any other comments in the chat right now. So let me ask you one last question. And that is, from your experience, Ben, when you're looking at doing this with nonprofits, with working with brand of nonprofits, what are 2 or 3 kind of, I would say, kind of primary I guess it would be just like primary pieces that you work on with nonprofits are kind of across the board. So it doesn't matter if they're arts and culture, if they're social services or what they are. So what are like three particular items that you always are working on with nonprofits that you think nonprofits can maybe take a look at themselves to in regards to how they can improve themselves?
Right. Well, I think that there are it depends on where the nonprofit is. Of course, there are some nonprofits who are beginning and they need consultation. They might even need brand naming, which is one of the services of my studio, helping to develop a name. They may need an initial visual identity like logo and identity. so it depends. If they're beginning, they may need a lot of those initial things. If they're larger, they may need a rebranding if that's where they're at, like someone like SCBWI, which could include workshops and other things. Or maybe they don't need a rebrand, they just need a refresh, like the Creative Center. So does it seem like your things are just not aligning anymore? Or does it seem like your visual expression is a little bit muddy and it's not so clear? When people see it, there's not a clarity related to what your main purpose is. In fact, Bibles for America, even though the name is Bibles for America, you would think that, and it is, their goal is to give out Bibles. When I went to their website, they had all kinds of stuff, videos, classes, educational things, blogs. And so it didn't align with the mission, right? So we redesigned their whole website so it aligned with their mission. So sometimes that's the issue, is that something's not right. Everything's a little mixed up. We're trying to do too much, or maybe we do a lot, and that's okay. But still, the public needs to see who we are and what our mission is, what our goal is. They need to align with us so we can rally them together behind us and move forward and really carry out this amazing vision, this mission that we have. So I would say, for some, it's the initial things. Maybe it's just consulting, brand naming, logo design, identity development. Some it's like, hey, we need some clarity here. We need help getting aligned. And they may need some branding workshops. And for others who are at the point of needing a rebranding, maybe their branding is old, or maybe like in the example here, they come under new leadership. They need something new and fresh. They may need something totally new visually. So I would say that these are three areas that can be kind of considered.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I think that's really grounding, and branding and visual identity and the importance of telling your story. These are just things that nonprofits oftentimes do not really think about as much because they're really focused on just getting the work done. So the fact that you are just so kind and your expertise is just so valuable to really ground these organizations into these considerations is really fantastic. So if anyone wants to reach out to you, what's a good place to reach you at?
Yeah, I mean, we could, my website, benloiz.com, there it is, kind of on the bottom of the top list there. My phone number, email is there. I'm on Instagram, I'm on LinkedIn. There you can connect on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn, I share almost daily tips and information about branding, just kind of sending it out there, free to enjoy and to learn from. So you can kind of follow any of those social media platforms or reach out via my website.
Great. Thank you so much, Ben. This has just been a pleasure to be in the room with you today.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you as well. I enjoyed the conversation.
I hope there's no echo if I'm back on, because this audio thing is really tricky when I'm doing this and streaming at the same time. Awesome. Thank you so much again for joining us today. Ben, with your background and all the awards that you've won and accolades, I really appreciate you taking the time to join us. And Kathleen, thank you so much for coordinating all the events that you've done for both arts and culture and nonprofit track. And I know that was a lot for you with all that's going on this fall, and you took on so much in support of Tallahassee Startup Week. So I really appreciate you and Coca for supporting us this week.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
Thanks everyone for joining us. I know some of you will be catching the recordings. You know how to get in contact with Ben. Definitely reach out to Kathleen in relation to nonprofits and Coca, because they have a lot of resources if you're passionate about art and culture in general. And for those of you who are here in Tallahassee, please catch the next upcoming events for the rest of the week, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks again.
Thank you.
I'll go ahead and end the broadcast.